But could you not make the argument, James, that Boris Johnson is actually listening to the country? He's seen where public opinion is and he's following it, because actually most people are broadly in support
Yeah, yeah.
of these draconian measures.
Yeah, I think he's certainly, if you wanted to be sympathetic, you'd say that he's caught in a vicious circle of stupidity of his own creation. The one thing the government has been very successful at in this coronavirus alleged crisis is that their propaganda arm has been firing on all cylinders. I mean, it's been absolutely magnificent. The British people are more scared of coronavirus than any other nation on earth, I think, certainly in the developed world. So propaganda, really good. So my counter to that argument would be, okay, your propagandists got us into this mess. They really, if they're that good, they should really get us out of it in the same way. And I think things like compulsory masks in supermarkets, which I don't do, no sane informed person would.
Has anyone tried to kick you out though, James?
Oh well, I get what I find is that it's very foolish to start talking about, oh, I'm not buying into the pandemic or any of this kind of stuff. You don't do that. What you say is very nicely, you say I'm mask exempt, and it gives them the excuse to just say fine. It makes everyone happy. If you start arguing technicalities, then you're on a hiding to nothing. But yeah, it's my kid's birthday today, by the way, and I've said to them, if they do not celebrate with more than 6 people, they're not bloody well getting a present from me. I don't want my children growing up to be the kind of compliant gimps of a sort of fascist state. I want them to resist.
So you're actively encouraging them to break the law?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think it's a bad law. I think they have a moral duty to break this law. I cannot believe what's happened to this country, Dan. And I think probably you feel the same way. I also think lots of people are coming round to this point of view. Yeah. I think there's a growing number of people who think this is crazy. It makes no sense at all. They're looking at the figures. They're getting better informed. I think this is going to come back to bite those involved in a big way. I can't see Hancock lasting. Boris has got to go. What disappoints me is that...
Really? So you think Boris will go? Because there has been that rumour, obviously strongly denied by Number 10.
Well, they're going to deny it, aren't they? Because he would be even less credible once it's sort of formally announced that he's going to go. That's it. So I suppose what he's going to do is crawl on like a kind of... a sort of lizard that's been squashed and had its tail dropped off and is just crawling forward, and he's just going to try and deliver Brexit, just so that he can go to his grave having achieved something. And then when he's done that, they'll put him out to grass. It'll be like an old racehorse.
But that would have been a big achievement, James. I mean, that would be a big achievement. And I actually wonder if we're going to get a second wind of Boris once the absolute nightmare of this pandemic is over, perhaps this time next year.
Oh, Dan, you romantic dreamer, you. do you
I'm really keeping the faith. I am keeping the faith, James. I am, because look, look. My theory on this is that the government are absolutely paranoid about the second spike, which will inevitably come, because of course we get a second spike of flu every year, don't we? There's cold weather coming, and I think by February, March, sanity will prevail, normality will resume. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not absolutely furious about it and want to combust with rage every single day, James, because I do. I think the rules are absolute madness. I think the limitations on our civil liberties are absolute madness. But I can see from a PR point of view, given where the mainstream media is at with this, why they are fearful of any more deaths occurring.
No, I asked my city friend how you get out of a death spiral, and he said, well, there's only one way. There's only one way the government can get out of this. Boris has got to go. Hancock has got to go. everyone associated with this disaster, this massive overreaction, which has caused so much economic damage and so much physical harm to people. So many more people are going to die as a result of the lockdown
Oh,
and so on.
absolutely. Well, we've got this ticking cancer time bomb. We've got the mental health time bomb. And in your scenario, James, presumably Rishi Sunak, who actually has been much more hawkish in terms of getting back to real life, even though he's had to obviously keep quiet publicly, given cabinet collective responsibility, he's in the perfect position to take over.
Dan, I was Team Gove just because Gove's a mate of mine and I think he's a very clever operator. But when I learned that Gove was the guy who pushed for
the
this
six, I know. He even ignored his brilliant wife. I mean, what was he thinking?
I know. Sarah Vine for Prime Minister. Oh my God, that would be Margaret Thatcher Mark II.
I would back that. I would support that.
Dream scenario. But given that we can't have Sarah Vine for Prime Minister, I think suddenly I've become Team Sunak because he's very carefully distanced himself. As you say, he's a hawk on this issue, and I think the hawks are going to prevail eventually. They have to. Because the country's going to come around and say, we've been sold a pup. This is awful. We cannot have this anymore.